Yo, this is Steve Bloom, and you're watching Moana Nui Podcast. We'll be starting soon. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Veronica Taylor, and from myself and Ash Ketchum, I just want to say, Moana Nui, I choose you!
Aloha, everyone. Thank you for joining the Moana Nui Podcast. We're so excited for you to be joining us for our 8:30 p.m. Eastern episode. You just finished, for those who tuned in at 7 p.m., you got to be part of our Dragon Con interview with Bill Mulligan. So if you missed it, definitely go to YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or Facebook to watch that interview to kind of learn more about Bill and all the things he's doing within the movie industry and being a teacher too. But before we get into the episode, for those that are new to the Moana Nui Podcast, I am Dana, the other half of the Moana Nui Podcast. I am a event cosplay and con staff photographer for many cons like Dragon Con, MomoCon, and May Week in Atlanta. And you even see my pictures with DC Comics. I'm also a voice actor, event coordinator, and a whole lot more. But of course, I have to hand it over to the Renaissance woman of our time, the yin to my yang, this gorgeous creature who started this podcast, the lovely, the beautiful Moana.
Y'all, Dana always knows how to put a smile on my face at the end of a crazy work week. It's good to be back. Welcome, everybody, back to the Moana Nui Podcast, now here on the Agents of Geekdom. We're really excited to have our new partnership with our friends over there at Freestyle Comics. But my name is Moana McAdams. I am the founder and host of the Moana Nui Podcast. I'm also a children's book author for The Adventures of Nakoa and Nohea. We actually have a Kickstarter coming up in just a little over a week, so we're really excited about that. We'll share some links later on. And then I'm also an editor and publisher for our comic book series, The Wildcard Chronicles, here at Burning Spear Comics. And of course, I'm just a champion and lover of our geek community as well as our POC community, and really creating those spaces for us to talk about the fun things we love and just why we love them. So I'm excited to have these wonderful ladies on tonight in partnership with Dragon Con. Really excited that we're able to get you guys on the show and spend a little bit more time with you and get to know you all better. So I'll hand it back over to Dana to do our introductions, and then we'll jump right in.
All right. Well, right before we get the introduction, we have 3 announcements we want to provide you. As Moana mentioned, coming soon will be her next children's book, number 3 in the children's book series for Nakoa and Nohea children's book series. So we want you to click the link on Kickstarter to notify you when the Kickstarter goes live. We have the link to the Kickstarter in the comment section, so please go there, click on the notify button, and you can know when it launches and be part of getting the next book to the series. Or if you missed the other 2, being able to get the other 2 books with the 3rd one also. And yes,
Thanks,
definitely
Karen.
congratulations on the new book, definitely. And then another friend of the Moana Nui Podcast, Malachi Bailey, who is another author, is going to be releasing his comic version of her with Wingless Comics. His Kickstarter will be starting shortly also. So definitely go to that link and click the notify button, and so you can be notified when that Kickstarter goes live. Because here at the Moana Nui Podcast, we want you to definitely support our indie creators out there, because you all asked for some diversity and some great content. Well, it's out there, so definitely support it. And last but not least, if you are in the Atlanta area this weekend, come out to Challengers Games and Comics on Saturday, October 1st from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. to meet and greet our very own guest of the podcast, David Crownson, a writer and creator of Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer comic book series. You can even get your copies of the comics signed there too. So definitely show up, be a part of that, and definitely meet and greet with David, and definitely get your comics autographed. But yes, so I was very excited to hear about that news. But of course, let us introduce our guest. Tara Lynne of Geek Saga Entertainment LLC is an author, event planner, fandom and geek culture expert, and public speaker. If you haven't noticed anything, the hashtag what girl power that always come on the show, they do not have just one title to their name.
That's right.
Another one. They founded Ice and Fire Con, the first ever con of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones convention in the United States. So you Game of Thrones fans, there's a con for you out there. But Tara's also, like I mentioned, they have also founded the Geek Saga website and / podcast, and the genre lit webcast and podcast Saga and Sass. In addition, they were co-administrators of the popular geek media website, The Geekanary, from 2014 to 2020, and continue to co-host the Geekanary's webcast, The Bitching Dead. And in 2018, they definitely showed their acting chops, being part of the Game of Thrones different musicals they had as part of Ice and Fire Con. And but most recent, of course, Tara has spoke about geek culture at San Diego Comic Con, C2E2, MegaCon, of course, just most recently Dragon Con, Ohio State University, TEDx Sarasota, and much, much more. And let me bring to the front Tara Lynne. Welcome, Tara.
I feel like I don't even need to say anything. You've literally described everything I did. Thank you guys for the great introduction. I'm honestly over here like I'm looking at all these links in the chat, just like waiting to click on them as soon as we're done here. So very, very excited to hear about everything you guys are doing. I did obviously follow you guys across Twitter and everything, but here I am thinking, oh, it's a cool little podcast, like fun people, yay, Dragon Con, love it. And you guys have so much going on yourselves. So I'm really excited to be here and talk to you guys. And we've got my BFF / another organizer, I guess, of Ice and Fire Con who's going to join us in a minute. So yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you guys for inviting us on.
Well, thank you for definitely coming on. Of course, Tara knows, like, if you've never been to Dragon Con is you're literally going into the belly of the beast, just like after its name. And literally, if one of the hotels, which is the Marriott, it literally looks like the inside portion when you look up, looks like you're inside the belly of a dragon, literally.
I love it.
But of course, when you're pressed, you get the opportunity to request different guests that you would like to interview, and you wait to get approved. And of course, we got approved to interview Tara. But the crazy one thing that is like the biggest no, and I don't know why it was done, is never schedule anything during the parade on Saturday. The parade shuts down downtown Atlanta, everything. And poor Tara was stuck trying to get to where we were, and I, of course, told them, "Don't worry, we will reschedule."
Oh, I actually think that might have been someone else. I was for Sunday.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
You were the
I was for
one.
Sunday.
Okay.
And yeah, and honestly, my schedule at DragonCon, I was supposed to do, I think, 8 or 9 panels / activities, and I only
That's a
ended
lot.
up doing
They
7 or
had you
8.
with the conflict.
Yeah. So I was like, here is the 3 minimal times I'm available. I'm so sorry. and to be honest, I spent more time in my room at DragonCon preparing for the things I was supposed to be doing at DragonCon than I literally ever have before, because I was running a really big event Sunday night that
Wow.
yeah, it took a lot out of me.
Yes,
I'm sure.
Well, let me definitely bring your BFF and also part of Ice and Fire, Nami.
Well,
Welcome,
she's also
Nami.
part of Sagas and Sass, so we do all the things together.
I would like to say that I'm perhaps the sass portion of Sagas and Sass.
I love it.
I'm the swearing portion, honestly.
I'm the one who makes like terrible puns for most of it, and then like I'll have like one quotable line like every episode, and it'll be like, "Dang, Nami, where you go?" But yeah, hi, I'm Nami Sparrow. My qualifications include being Tara's BFF. But actually, so Tara and we do Sagas and Sass podcast together, and that's one of the big reasons I'm here, because love that show. It's the reason I started reading again. And we're also I'm also on the Small Council, which is like our like organizational body for Ice Fire Con, which is
Nice.
a fun joke from the actual series if you are a Game of Thrones person. I'm also a cosplayer myself, and I am also doing historical costuming, and one of the other things I do in a lot of my communities is diversity and inclusion work. So I do that for some events that I have been a part of, and I usually will also do panels and stuff at anime conventions, because I do love to talk. Also, just Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. Can we talk? Like,
Yes.
Check it out. They what? How many issues are out already, Moana? Isn't it?
I 4, maybe 5.
I just googled it immediately. I was like, I cannot forget this. This sounds amazing.
You know it has to be good when Barack Obama will follow you on Twitter.
Oh my god. Goals?
The author is actually followed by Barack Obama. I was like,
wow.
You've done it.
Yes, that's the win.
On the one hand, goals, but on the other hand, my Twitter content varies so horrifically that I do not know that I want anybody to follow me. My father follows me on Twitter, and it's a problem because like sometimes it'll be like normal things, and then other times it's like thirst traps. And
hey, you like somebody with balance. You want a little bit of everything. Follow Nami. You like the unexpected. Are you one of those that spend the $20 for the little surprise boxes that you don't know what's inside, but you just like the surprise element of it? Follow Nami. She is like your all together prize box, unknown. You know you got a treasure right there. $20 right there.
Dana.
That's right. That's right. I love it.
Once again, both of you, thank you for being on the show. And of course, on the Moana Nui podcast, when someone's here for the first time, we like to start the show off with the Pico or your origin story. So I'd like both of you to kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are from. So Tara, we'll have you kick it off.
So I'm originally from Connecticut. I currently spend part of my time in South Carolina and part in Southern California. I actually got married last year to somebody who has 2 kids. I never wanted children, but thankfully they are grown. 21 and nearly 16 now. So
nice.
I got to take on the kids after all the hard work had been done. They both live with us full time out here in California when I'm here. So yeah, I do. gosh, origin story. I mean, if we're talking about geek origin story, I obviously have been in this seat my entire life. I just hid it for most of my life. I was that kid in high school who was reading the Star Wars EU books hidden in my notebook during biology class, you know? And then as I got older, I had a relationship in my late teens and early 20s, like during college and just after, where my significant other at the time was like, this is stuff that children are into. You need to get rid of all of your Star Wars EU books. And I regret that so much because so many of them were like first edition books that aren't
no.
but that relationship ended, and very soon after that I was like, wait a minute, I like this stuff and I'm just gonna have fun with it. So I really got into I joined a bunch of message boards because this is back in the day. I'm old, FYI. This is back in the day. So I joined a bunch of message boards, wrote some fanfic, just got really into, I had been really into like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, eventually got really into Song of Ice and Fire, which then Game of Thrones aired. And actually it was at Dragon Con 2012, which was my first Dragon Con and also only my second convention ever. So anybody who has been to Dragon Con to understand that the first convention I went to one day, a Sunday, not even a Saturday, of Star Wars Celebration 5 in Orlando.
Oh boy.
2010. That was my first convention. And then 2 years later, I went to Dragon Con, and it was like this whole world had opened for me, right? A whole new world. So
you literally could have been a whole Disney princess, like do a whole little song going to Dragon Con.
And that's actually a good idea. Someone should write that filk. So I went and I somehow, I don't even remember how, because it's been 10 years now, I found out ahead of time. I think I was on the Dragon Con website and was looking at the fan tracks, a bunch of their pages and stuff, because this was before any of them really were super big into using Facebook or anything like that. But one of them, the American Sci-Fi Fantasy Media track, had a panelist application just on their page for their track on the Dragon Con website. And I was like, I looked at it, saw the things that were listed, and was like, oh, Game of Thrones, I can do that. And I, applied to be a panelist. And this person who I had experience in acting and being in front of people and stuff, but I had never spoken on a fan panel or anything like that before. They said, hey, yes, you can be on this panel. So my very first Dragon Con was also my very first time as a panelist, and it has just escalated from there. So yeah, I that, and also that first year, quite a few friends and I were lamenting the lack of Game of Thrones programming at Dragon Con, because the show had just ended its second season, and A Dance with Dragons had come out a little bit over a year before, but all they had was like one TV show panel and one book panel, and I think they did a game show, and I think I might have been involved in that too. Actually, there was a game show of Thrones. I remember little about it because, again, 10 years ago, and also Dragon Con, so so yeah, some friends and I, we did like a Game of Thrones photo shoot, and we did a little Game of Thrones gathering in like a hotel room that one of them, like a nice hotel room that one of them had. And after the fact, we were like, why don't we just like make our own Game of Thrones convention? So 3 of us got together and found a castle in Ohio, and then less than a month after Dragon Con 2012, we had a website, we had a venue, we had tickets for sale. Don't ask me how this happened, because now after Dragon Con happens, I need like a month and a half
Right.
rest. I don't get that, but I need it. So yeah, it was Dragon Con that kind of gave birth to Ice and Fire Con even happening. So
nice. And what about you, Nami?
So I am also a nerd. Wow, great job, Nami. 11 out of 10 words. But it's actually funny because a lot, like my nerdy interests were like nurtured by my father. So one of my earliest memories is like my dad and I watched like all the Star Wars movies together, all the
Yes.
Lord of the Rings movies together. I remember I was young when the third Star Wars movie came out, so not the original 3, but the prequel trilogy. So
Okay.
when the third one came out, I distinctly remember this day because my little sister had gotten grounded, so it was just me and my dad going to see the movie in theaters together, and I just remember being like very smug and very happy because I was like, it's me and my dad, and we're having nerd time, and my little sister was like never into like nerdy stuff like we were, although I will say, she accidentally got me into anime because we used to watch Yu-Gi-Oh together, and she purchased Yu-Gi-Oh cards from Target so we could duel together. Did I perhaps make up the rules so I always won? Yes. Do I practice why she might not be a nerd? Maybe. My right as an older sister, though, so I stand by it. But so, because of my dad, I got into a lot of nerdy stuff. And then I was always a nerdy kid, so like I kept doing nerdy stuff. And then in middle school, I got like my lasting group of friends, and they were all like very much anime nerds. Except like this was like the days of Toonami, so it wasn't like we knew what anime was. It was like, yes, we like the Naruto and the Bleach. Except my group, we didn't like One Piece because we thought One Piece was silly. And joke's on me now because I literally have a tattoo from One Piece. Turns out it was the realest of all of them. But basically, I started reading manga through that, like, and through that friend group. And in 8th grade, one of our friends had gone to an anime convention, and he came back the next day. He's like, guys, there were people there who were dressed as Naruto and Sasuke, and we have to go. And I was like, yes, we're going next year. And the next year, I made the most terrible Kurona Yuhi costume from Naruto. This costume was made with terrible sewing. It was decorations were put on it with Sharpie. The sleeve didn't work like a sleeve. It did not fit to the point that there was just a triangle of empty flesh right here under the armpit. And I wore it anyway. I was so happy. And like, I got the bug. We were the children at the convention with like one of our mothers just like staring suspiciously at all the adults while we were at the con. And like, I've just never gone back, or rather I have gone back many, 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 many times.
Yes. I tell people, once you get that true con experience, you just can't get enough. And then there's such variations of different cons all over. And then it seems like every year I hear about a new con, and I'm like,
oh gosh,
okay, what is this one? When is that? Okay, how does that align? Do I have enough time that I could go between these cons? And it's just like, yeah, you could. It's not enough time for all these cons that are out here.
Oh man, the worst thing about being an adult with a full-time job is that now that I can afford to go to all the cons, I do not have the PTO to go to.
Exactly. So Mega Millions, Disney, HBO, any of y'all want to sponsor us?
Hello, hi. I do funny voices.
We take sponsorships.
I will say, I think you guys are all in the realm that I was in from like 2013 to let's say 17, where maybe 2018, 2017, 2013 to 2017, I was like all cons all the time. And now I'm kind of like, nope, I've got Dragon Con, I've got Ice and Fire Con. If I'm in California, I might go to San Diego for the weekend, but I got it out of my system after a few years. It gets really exhausting and pricey.
Yes,
it does.
That's once again, I said sponsors. Anybody want to sponsor?
Right.
We all 4 of us would be happy to speak on panels.
Yes.
Cover content for you, Disney. For you,
I will
HBO.
cosplay characters from your original content.
That's right.
all for a lovely price of like covering our missed time from work and travel and covering all our expenses. It's a real good deal.
I can eat a lot, but I could eat less for you.
Hey, look, they spend more, getting some of the celebrities places. So
It's so true.
given the four of us, we're probably not even a part of some of the guests that they try to get at some of these events. So
we could be like the cost of Robert Downey Jr.'s pointer finger.
Yes. And then, you get to know us and you're like, where have you been all of our lives?
All my life. That's right.
Here.
Exactly.
Well, of course, Tara, of course, as I read in your bio, you established Geek Saga Entertainment LLC, and of course, having multiple podcasts, webcasts, along with doing public speaking. How important was it for you to establish your own company? And tell us a little bit, because we heard about your other podcast with Nami, but tell us a little bit about Geek Saga also.
Well, so I actually had an event planning company, and that it still exists as an LLC because Ice and Fire Con still exists. But I actually am like in that I need to get my stuff together and fold things under the Geek Saga Entertainment umbrella, because I started the event planning company in 2016 when a friend and I decided that we wanted to branch out from only doing Ice and Fire Con, and we wanted to do another convention. We founded and organized Beach City Con, which was a Steven Universe convention.
Yes.
And so we started that, and that went that happened in 2017 and 2018, and then I kind of backed away from it for quite a few reasons. Namely, to be honest, I didn't really want to deal with actor guests. Not that they were difficult in terms of not that they were difficult. It was more so the fact that if their schedule changes and they can't make it, then it's a huge issue across the board.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't want this stress in my life. I just want to organize, either local. I did a lot of local one night events in upstate South Carolina where I lived, and a couple other random things over the years. But so I backed away from that, and I had some other ideas in my pocket. Actually, our Sagas and Sass webcast and podcast is covering the Red Rising series right now. And one of the things I was talking with some other Red Rising fans about was a Red Rising convention. It's a sci-fi sort of like space opera book series by Pierce Brown. Amazing. Love it. Like second favorite book series of all time, probably. Maybe first. I don't know. I vacillate, honestly.
Exactly.
But then, honestly, the pandemic happened, and I said, nope, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Dealing with canceling events and the fallback that came from that, while the vast majority of people were supportive, it's still very stressful on all levels to have to cancel your event and deal even with a couple people that are mad about it. Understandably so, but what are you going to do? So I wanted to back away from that. And when we started the Sagas and Sass webcast podcast in, I think we announced it in September 2020 and started it in October 2020. I said, okay, well, now that I'm doing 2 different webcasts and only one event, I need to have an umbrella that if I do make money off this, advertising money, Patreon, whatever, and also while I personally do not make money from Ice and Fire Con, this is like an all volunteer thing for me. It does, as an event, make money. So I have to have a way to separate it from my own personal finances for tax reasons. So, I went out and applied for the Geek Saga Entertainment LLC because I wanted to make sure that I kept everything under an umbrella that made sense for tax purposes. So that's how that happened. And the Geek Saga Sorry, I've got foster kittens in the room. Everybody say hi to Dipper.
Oh, so cute.
I don't know that his sister Mabel will come to visit. She's a void cat, a little void kitten. She's very cute. But so I don't know that, or the Geek Saga podcast. I've been doing that for a long time. I think my first episode with that was, I don't know, early 2017.
Okay.
But for the longest time, it was just kind of a random episode here and there. And then I would take recordings of the panels that I was on and do very minimal editing, like kind of play with the sound as much as I could, edit out long pauses between audience questions, that sort of thing, and throw it into a podcast episode and put it up on Spotify, on my website, which therefore went to Spotify and a couple other places, for people who couldn't go to the conventions. And I hate myself for doing it, but now that I have been doing it for so long, I actually take if you listen to our first season Sagas and Sass podcast only episodes, I did nothing. I took the sound from our live webcast, plopped it in between intro and outro music, and just put it up there. Now I actually spend hours editing these things, which is like, I don't know why I do this to myself.
Don't do it.
A lot of the reason
do it.
Tara has to edit it is because they'll write up these amazing funny summaries for all of our books, and then me and our two other co-hosts will go to read it, and then we can't speak the English language.
No,
Tara's just
summary is taking the least amount of time. It is me being super picky about editing as many knows, likes, and
oh yeah, no, don't get in that business.
That's me. Yep, it's me.
It's everybody. It's everybody. So yeah, I went from just plopping things into an audio podcast with a just very simple musical intro and outro to going through and editing all the things. I regret it, but the type A perfectionist in me also is so angry with myself for not doing it before now. Before now, I say that. Before the past, I think I've been really editing things hardcore for the past year and a half, maybe 2 years. Less than 2 years, because our first season of Sagas and Sass, the Grishaverse stuff, I just plopped into a podcast episode. But after that, I went real hardcore.
In fairness, the Grishaverse episodes were me mostly crying about how much I love one character who's the mean girl, beautiful Indian woman, and I was like, yes, she's perfect. I love her. She's a bully, but I love her.
Hey, JD from Twitch is saying, Tara, keep holding out. Soon we'll have AI to help edit.
God, I hope so.
I know, right? It's funny because I actually did the opposite. I started editing first. I was paying somebody to edit, and I was like, you know what? This is just too much. Let's just upload it as it is. Slap an intro on it, slap an outro. Let's keep it moving.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I do YouTube, so that involves a little more editing stuff, but also I ramble on just audio form and webcasts and stuff like this, but when it comes to YouTube, I tend to do that thing where I'm if you don't say it in 5 seconds, you gotta move on and you gotta say something else, or there's just the sewing that I do is just I'll try to film it and it'll be so out of focus that it's just me in the background going, and here's me doing a thing, but it's too blurry, so sorry guys, something's happening here.
That is the beauty of technology and everything else. You just have to roll with the punches of everything.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Nami, of course, Tara told us a little how Fire and Ice kind of got its start, and of course, Tara mentioned that you're part of the Fire and Ice Council. What made you decide to be part of the Fire and Ice Con, and give us your perspective of the con for those that's never been, that may be interested?
So I met Tara through a mutual friend, I want to say, God, 6 years ago? somewhere
I think it
around
was
there.
Dragon Con 2016. Yeah.
Yeah, so 6 years ago, at Dragon Con, I was like introduced to Tara as like, this is another Game of Thrones person. They host a Game of Thrones convention. Isn't that cool? And I was like, yeah, that's cool. We're all drunk and wearing bunny suits. Let's hang out. And so, like, after that convention, we, like, actually, like, became Facebook friends, and then it was like, wow, like, this con looks really, really great. Like, I would love to go. And, like, I was already a Game of Thrones person at this point. Like, I was, like, you know, knee-deep in the show. My dad and I watched Game of Thrones together. In retrospect, that was probably really awkward because there was a lot of sex scenes, but, like, we both had gotten really good at, like, poker facing it and, like, not addressing that, but, like, just also being able to watch Game of Thrones together. It's a very, very special skill we have. But so I was already knee deep into Game of Thrones and I loved the books and like I'd already like read the whole series and stuff. And then when I heard about this con, I was like, oh my God, yeah, I would love to do stuff like this with the con. And then turns out though that the con was in April and I just wasn't able to make it for a few years just because of like existence being a thing that was in conflict with other things. I don't remember what I was doing in 2016. I think it was being severely depressed, but you know, it happens. But but over those 2 years, Tara and I just became better friends, and like we kept hanging out at Dragon Con, and then like we became friends and like actually talked outside of con, and then like eventually when I actually got to go to Dragon Con, it was like going to a con that was run by my friends, that was just all of my friends in one place, and it was me showing up drunk like, hello my friends, and they were like, hello my friend, and then it was like, how we drink of the beer and make fun of Targaryens. And yeah, it was just a really, really fun time. And it's like Dragon Con in energy and vibes and like that party atmosphere, but like also it has like genuine like cool Game of Thrones content for like people who are really, really into the books and into the shows. And like it's really great because like we have everything, like all types of content. Like one of the things so a panel that I was on this year actually that was hosted by one of my friends. So my friend goes by Birdie D Cosplay, and she's like an amazing Sansa cosplayer, and we did a panel called Women and Agency in A Song of Ice and Fire. So we basically went through and talked about all the female characters that we could think of and like how they had agency, or in many cases didn't have agency within the show and within the books. And it was really, really cool. And like I've also previously hosted panels there about like costuming and like getting into costuming and stuff and all of that, and how to hand dye silk if you're feeling particularly reckless and masochistic, because I have done that and I will never do that again. But yeah, basically it ended up being like this thing that like I went to a place that that like the people there had become my family. And obviously I don't know every person at the con, but it's a pretty tiny convention, so like I do know like a good chunk of people, and like they became like some of my closest friends. And then you know, as time went on, I realized that like in every other space that I have been in, I have entered that space sort of as an outsider, and I've had to make my own space. I haven't normally come into a geek space and had a friend who was in a position of power already helping me find belonging, which is what Tara did for me in this convention and in the Game of Thrones space. But in all other spaces, I was the one going, hey, give me a seat. Give me a seat now. Also give other people seats. And so I realized that like nobody was doing that for this convention. So I was like, you know what? Hey, I have to be that advocate. I have to be that person who's like, you know what? We need more inclusivity and leadership, and we need more like, we want just more like POC at the convention, because I know there's so many like amazing Game of Thrones fans, but they stay away from the fandom because it can be pretty toxic. And you know, I want to like make sure people know that like this is a fun, good portion of the fandom that you can come hang out with. And like, what is it? We have like a saying there that it's like you found your family here. Like,
Yes. I think our official house words, the Ice and Fire Councilmember house words, are no matter the house, you're home.
Yes.
Oh, I like it.
No matter your house here. I can't remember my own house words for my own. It's either no matter. I think it's no matter the house, your home. So it basically is saying no matter what house you identify with in Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, Ice and Fire Con is your home. Nobody's gonna judge you.
Nice.
I like it.
I like that. Yeah.
Let me duck off for a second because I'm getting low battery, and by duck off I mean lean and grab.
Exactly. We've all had those moments. While you're doing that, the fact that y'all brought up about like a lot of times a lot of the fandoms can be very toxic, aka keyboard warriors. But especially we're seeing a lot of it with the new series on HBO for the House of Dragons. And of course, you know, because they're hearing those voices of the more diverse looks, because I think someone was, when they were complaining about some of the characters, and they were like, hey, here's a piece from the actual book that says this character looks like this. So why, you know, kind of aspect. But with Fire and Ice, will you be bringing in that world of House of the Dragons for next year's con?
Oh, I mean, for sure. Like, because to be honest, without any Game of Thrones since 2019, and without any books since 2011, and God knows. I mean, I guess. Okay, so that's not entirely true. We had World of Ice and Fire in 2014, and we had Fire and Blood in 2017 or whatever it was. Yeah. But no, we are. I actually started a series on my personal podcast called Hot D Takes. That's about, like, it's an episode by episode coverage of House of the Dragon, which I never wanted to do with anything, but I wanted to do something different. But yes, I will say this, like, I don't know that if it's the fandom as a whole that has been, and Nami might have a different perspective, obviously, but like for me, it seems like it's less the fandom that is having problems with the representation and more a couple people who happen to be
the keyboard warriors that is not really fans of the show.
Yeah, I've seen some minimal things from fans, and then and to be honest, I try to stay out of the online fandom for Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire personally, because I am too much of, because I have this position of leadership in this convention, right? So I don't want to cloud the things that I do or say or anything with random fandom perspectives. Now that all of that said, obviously, are we allowed to swear on here?
Yes.
fuck people who are being racist about these shows ever. But the what I've seen, and again, this is only the very minimal amount that I've seen. I've seen maybe, like, there's one YouTube thing that got brought up on Twitter, where it was a huge group of people, mostly white dudes, being dumb. And then there's also Linda and Elio, who are longtime friends of George R.R. Martin because they founded Westeros.org. And Linda is a racist piece of trash. Period. End of story. Like, racist piece of trash. And so while my fandom interaction in the online spaces is kind of limited, I at least know where the major backlash is coming from. And I think a lot of it is people being upset with George R.R. Martin, who himself is, you know, proclaims himself to be anti-war, anti-racist, etc., but still involves himself with these people to the point of working with them directly on texts that are being published. And, you know, that's problematic. I mean, is anything going to change with that? I don't know. I kind of doubt it at this point, sadly. But hey, maybe I'll be proven wrong. I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, for me, it's always been like, anytime and I'm sure Dana and Moana, you get this, but anytime there's a visible brown character in a previously all-white piece of geek media, suddenly all the racist communities work to be like, but accuracy, that character is brown? How could a Tolkien elf have melanin?
Come on.
What do you mean? This hobbit is brown.
Team Arundhar, come on now.
Black elves don't exist, and all these people, and it's like you don't actually care, or like you're masking your caringness of this fandom in racism. And frankly, like I don't have the energy for you, but like you see it all the time, and I think one of the biggest things that happened is like, you know, and I'm sure you two are aware, like you can always tell like the kind of person that like genuinely is coming in here with these shitty arguments because they are a nerd. And then there's a person who's like a racist and is just masking their nonsense with this fake nerd bullshit. Yeah. And my favorite is to go up to the real nerds and be like, hey, you like seeing yourself in Lord of the Rings, right? And they're like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, well, I like seeing myself in Lord of the Rings too. And they're like, well, yeah, of course. And I'm like, but I can't see myself in it. I'm just the evil people with the elephants. Like, I also want to be an elf. And they're like, oh shit, yeah, you should also be an elf. Yeah. Granted, I'm a hobbit. I'm going to be honest. I am a hobbit. I know it. Yes. But, like,
I love this.
But like, it was the same thing. And like, you know, like I frankly am like oversaturated with Star Wars content at this point, and I can't believe I'm saying this. And like every single time something new comes out, I'm like, oh my god, I'm 7 episodes behind on the current season of blah blah Star Wars blah. Baby Yoda, did I even finish the first season of The Mandalorian?
How dare.
Right. But I still remember, like, you know, when Rey...
Yes, bring him out, yes.
The first, like, yes, so cute.
I have that one,
when
too.
Rey became the first, like, female live-action Jedi to be on screen, when Leia was confirmed to have Jedi abilities on screen, when Finn comes in being black and awesome and really hot, and he's got his whole asshole lightsaber, and I'm just like, heck yes. And then it was also great because all the racists came out of the woodwork, so they're like, hey, this isn't that great.
We're here too.
Get out of my fandom. Bye.
You immediately know who your friends aren't.
Yes. Really, in a way, I love it because it's like every single time one of these people show their butts, I'm like, I don't have to deal with you anymore. Thanks, get out of my fandom. Bye. It's safer for me to cosplay around people in person now because you, a danger, are gone. And like the same thing is happening with Game of Thrones now. And like, in a weird way, like, so the whole Targaryen dynasty in Game of Thrones is very like blood purity driven because like having Valyrian blood means you can like be a dragon rider. So you know, naturally the grossest parts of our society who like to pretend they care about nerd things, or the gross nerds have decided that like, you know, Targaryens are a symbol of blood purity, and I'm just like, ha, screw you, because they cast a lovely, lovely, handsome black man as Targaryen. And
literally, the entire Valyrian family is the most attractive. They're the most attractive people in the entire show. Like every single one of them.
I'm gonna be real honest. They did some brilliant casting with Matt Smith as Daemon because and I love Matt Smith and I objectively do think he's handsome, and however he also does have that look where you're like, is he inbred? Maybe. which is a horrible thing to say.
He's inbred in the way that all English actors, British actors are inbred. Like, they're just all in the same 10 things. He did play Prince Philip in The Crown, so.
He did. Also, apparently, like, people, who was it? One of the younger, I think it was the Meghan Markle's husband, not.
Oh, yes.
Prince Harry.
Dresses him as grandfather, which is kind of hilarious. But that aside, I could go on another rant about the royal family. Yikes. But
seriously, when you have Nami on a webcast, the rants will be beyond.
We have to give her a special segment.
Yeah, but basically, like I'm so glad because like now I got my canon brown Targaryens, and I'm so Valerians. Sorry, but I'm so excited to cosplay Lena because she's our hero, and I love her so much, and she's my favorite, and also there will definitely be House of Dragon stuff at Ice and Fire Con, because even if it won't be official, it will be me unofficially running around as Lena with a full House of the Dragons cosplay group. Do we have a person dressing as the wife of Daemon that he murders after she's being on screen in 5 minutes? Is one of my friends making that whole ass armor?
Well, I will say this. So we do musicals, as you mentioned at the very beginning at Ice and Fire Con. So we are reprising Six. It's a parody. It's a parody Game of Thrones Song of Ice and Fire musical with the music from Six, right? It's called Queens the Musical. We did it this year at Ice and Fire Con. We are reprising it, hopefully bigger and better next year. Now that said, this year our opening song was about House Frey, and it featured a song from the Book of Mormon. So it was a totally different musical, totally different. But next year we will hopefully, if I can get my shit together with my friend who is willing to help me write it, and my other friends who wrote Six, who wrote Queens, the Game of Thrones Song of Ice and Fire parody lyrics for the Six music. If I can get all of us together, my goal is to have a Targaryen version of Welcome to House Madrigal from Encanto.
Oh.
And we already have in Queens, the person who plays Daenerys is a person of color, actually. So would be super easy for us to just boop all the people of color, because it makes stupid sense. It makes really good sense to just have well, and honestly, even if it didn't, who the fuck cares? It's fantasy, right?
Exactly.
That's kind of my thing. Like when they cast his name as Corlys Velaryon, as Steve Toussaint, when they cast him as Corlys Velaryon, and I saw the pictures, I was just like, yep, that's my dude. That's the richest, smartest dude in Westeros during Fire and Blood. I'm down. Just like looking at it. Amazing. Perfect. So
he looks like he would kick your ass, and he looks like he would have all your gold, and he looks like he would love his wife, and that is what Corlys Velaryon does.
He's awesome.
And has beautiful children.
That too. Cannot forget that part. Oh my god. My favoriteest thing that I saw was that, the random, like, TV show accuracy, I hate it. But for legitimate reasons. That isn't about race, people. But they just want to be angry about, like, something not being accurate. Those people, you know what I mean. But my favorite was somebody was like, why did they even bother to replace Laener's actor for this, like, last time? Like, he doesn't actually look that much older. And I was like, guys, you know the rule. Black doesn't crack.
That's right.
And also, like, if you're an unproblematic white person, you won't age. But somebody please explain Crispin Cole to me then, because that doesn't make sense.
Hey, they can't argue with the facts. They can't argue with the facts on that one.
That's right.
I actually love this idea from JD. Somebody actually needs to make this like as a little YouTube video for real. Of like, he says, I would love to log on to YouTube and see a video of D&D fans writing against GOT fans at a convention, turf war. You can even get the Lord of the Rings fans also. It could be a 3-way thing, It could be like the Jets versus, you gotta have a West Side Story kind of vibe.
So here's my question. Does he mean George R.R. Martin fans versus GOT fans? Or does he mean Benioff, like D&D as in Benioff and Weiss fans versus fans of the show who are angry? Because that's where I'm questioning. Only because while neither one of them has happened, if you want to see people not rioting against each other, but if you want to see people clapping back about the show nonsense,
That would actually
you
be
can
good.
visit the Ice and Fire Con YouTube and see a video of myself and a friend of mine from 2017. This is years and years ago, where we actually did "You're Welcome" from Moana as Benioff and Weiss, where we are very sarcastically saying, "You're welcome for all the crappy things we did with Game of Thrones so far." And the funny thing is, it stood the test of time, honestly, because the show only got worse. And then if you go to the Westeros Musicals YouTube account, Queens is literally a love letter to the fandom that claps back about how shitty the show was, especially in the end. The Daenerys song is basically an entire ode to how bad Daenerys' storyline was.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, those last couple seasons.
Yes.
Yep. Honestly, once they trashed Dorne, I checked out.
Yeah.
Like, House Martell and
gosh,
Dorne
I
are my favorites.
know.
And I was like, you know what? Listen, I'm checking out. Well, and it didn't help that at the end of the season, they also had the stuff that happened with Sansa that I'm not even going to touch on.
Yeah.
But once I checked out of that, I was like, you know what? I can just enjoy this for the crap that it is. It's fine. And sometimes it wasn't crap, right? Like, there were some good episodes in seasons 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah.
Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Brienne getting knighted.
Yeah.
Chef kiss.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it was so few sprinkles in those seasons of good stuff with the horribly, why are we going in this direction?
It was one of those things.
What are you
that,
doing? No, don't, no. Oh, you went there. Oh, you went there.
It was one of those things that they screwed up Dorne so bad that I didn't even have the energy to be happy later when they made my one true ship, Gendry and Arya, canon. And like I didn't even care because I was like, they made Ilaria Sand kill a child. A Dornish woman would never.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, JD answered your question, Tara. He says, I want to see a bunch of night cosplayers trying to stab each other, Hobbit cosplayers biting ankles. Yeah. Maybe I'm sick, but I am bored of Black Friday videos.
Bold of you to think the Hobbit cosplayers wouldn't just be smoking weed in the background.
Yeah.
That's
right.
That's true. They probably be like, get him in the head.
I mean, from Westeros, an American Musical in 2019, there is a video of Nami herself stabbing the air like randomly as other people fake murder each other on stage. So it's not quite what you're looking for, but we've got something for everybody. You know?
Like murder, unskilled murder, but like attempted.
It's the most hilarious. It was the most hilarious thing for me.
Well, of course, I'd love for y'all to tell people, one, how they can watch and follow your shows for both Geek Saga, but also see you and Nami live on the webcast for your podcast together of Sagas and Sass, and then of course how they can keep up with everything with Ice and Fire Con and where they can register at.
Okay, I mean, I'll. Do you want to go first, Nami? You want me to go first?
Yeah, I can start off. So, as far as finding me, generally I am Nami Sparrow on Instagram and on Facebook and on YouTube. I am still Nekonami Cosplay on Twitter, which is like my OG baby weeb username that I recently updated because I'm just like, Cat Nami, okay, like I mean fine, but like let's do something more. Nami Bird. Apparently all I could do is animals. I'm really good at this. But yeah, so you can find me there. Twitter's unhinged. Instagram I update rarely, but I will scream in my stories often. And YouTube every like 3 or 4 months I sometimes make a video. I have one that I should have made should have edited a while ago. I just haven't had the energy to actually wear the thing I made. Which, by the way, if you like,
so as you heard, JD, if you want chaos, go to Nami's Twitter. They get that chaos.
Historical costuming. I'm
Oh,
going to put in a
nice.
video about making
That's pretty.
days very soon. Hopefully within the next month if I put them on sometime. And then the Sagas and Stats, which is the podcast webcast that Tara and I do together with our lovely co-hosts Nick and John, our two resident white men. You
have to give representation to the resident white men.
Well, to be fair, Nick is polyamorous and possibly maybe non-binary. They are in figuring themselves out phase.
Okay.
So, but polyamorous as well. So they're the white person, but definitely a little bit of extra.
Okay.
Okay. Everyone's dad. He's doing his
John
dad.
is everyone's dad. Yes.
Okay.
Gotta have one. Gotta have a good one.
So how can they tune in for Saga and Sass?
Yes, and actually, this is probably the best time for you guys to start tuning in because we just covered parts 1 and 2 of Red Rising, which is the first book in this brand new saga. There are I want to say 5, 6, 7, many books. 5
right now. Yeah,
I'm great at numbers. There's 5 books out so far. I have read the first book and also spoiled myself extensively by reading the Wikipedia. But it's a great series. Y'all are in for a really lovely treat. And now is the time to start because we have episodes every 2 weeks and we tend to read about 100, 150, 200 pages in that time. So, but the other thing is we also do post these on our YouTube and we also do upload these as in podcast form later. So you can also watch at your own pace. But now is the time if you want to get in on the live action, and you do because I tend to be like this. I'm just always like this. I do that.
The only thing I will say about that is the live webcasts, which air like you guys do on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch every other Wednesday at 8 p.m. So we just did one last week on the whatever date that 21st, and then our next one is I think Wednesday the October 5th. I cannot promise there won't be some minor spoilers, nothing major, but if you haven't read at least the whole book of what we're covering, some of us have read ahead. It's not me, and it's not Nami, and it's not Nick. It's John. Love him so much, everyone's dad. But every once in a while, he slips up and will spoil something from the future parts of the book. But that said, I edit that out of the podcast episode. So if you follow Sagas and Sass,
if you don't want any spoilers, wait for the podcast audio version.
Right, which usually so we air on Wednesdays, and usually the latest I have it up is Saturday evening. And the only reason it's that late is because we have a Patreon now, and so it goes up on the Patreon 24 hours before it goes public on our website and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. So if you've read Red Rising and you don't mind minor possible spoilers, the live webcast is always going to be a ton of fun. But I would suggest if you have not read at least the full book that we're covering, maybe don't on the live thing. But John was pretty good this past week, so
look at him go.
Yeah, I only had to edit out 2 things, and both of them were so minor that it was it doesn't matter in the future story or anything like that. But still, what we're trying to do with Sagas and Sass, what we've always tried to do is we're reading a series as we go, right? And sometimes we have read them. We've read the books beforehand, with the Grishaverse. I think quite a few of us had read, or no, just Nami and I maybe. There have been times where we've covered books in parts where some of us have read beyond that, but we've always aimed to keep our stuff spoiler free. We're only going to talk about what we're covering in that episode.
Okay.
So that's that. And so that's every other week. My Geek Saga podcast is super sporadic. So right now it's every week. Hot D Takes, I record it every week, usually on Monday evenings, which means it's up on Thursday afternoons again. Because it usually takes me a couple days to get them edited, because real job.
Exactly.
I work in continuing medical education, so I am very, very busy all the time with day job stuff. And and beyond that, with the Geek Saga podcast, I do have a couple Dragon Con panels that I need to put up there. For sure, if anybody who is listening is into Red Dead Redemption, which is Red Dead 2, Red Dead 1, Red Dead 2 are my favorite video games of all times. I refuse to be sorry about that.
It's the Barbie horse girl game, and I stand by that.
Yes. So if anybody's into Red Dead Redemption, I've got one recording coming out for my podcast from the panel that I moderated with some of the guests, like the actors from Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2. I actually already put out one that was the thing I was talking about earlier, the game show that I hosted at Dragon Con this year that I put a lot of work into. I mean, I wrote all the questions and everything, and Nami, it was a Hollywood Squares themed game, and Nami was one of our Squares who knows nothing about Red Dead Redemption, but somehow got like half the questions that were asked her right.
Some of them were right. One of them I did. Some of them were like just like common knowledge things about, like, one of them was like, oh, what animal were they hunting in the game that was endangered? And I'm like, well, it's a Western, so they were obviously hunting buffalo. And that's correct. It's just like a historical fact. And so, like, some of these things I knew just by like knowing miscellaneous facts, and then other things it was like, I was like, it'd be funny if they did like, if they bought like 3 rounds of drinks, and turns out the correct answer was 3 rounds of drinks. And then another time it was just like questions referencing things that the actors had said that was funny. And I have a good memory. So I was like, oh, he said mangoes this one time, so mangoes is the correct answer.
It's honestly, it's like an hour long, and it's if anybody likes Red Dead Redemption who listens to this, it's a very interesting, because we also had it was 3 actors, because they did mocap, so they're actors, not just voice actors. They were actors. Rob Wheathoff, who's John Marston, Benjamin Byron Davis, who is Dutch Vanderland, and Roger Clark, who is Arthur Morgan. And then we also had Mark Meir, voice of Commander Shepard from Mass Effect. And we had like a video game developer named Allison Carrier, and a lore master is what he called himself, from Blizzard, Sean Copeland, and another voice actor, Greg, whose last name is escaping me right now. But so basically it's a bunch of guests from Dragon Con on this panel, some of whom obviously know Red Dead Redemption because they were on it or played it, and some of them who didn't at all. And it's a really funny, like, just stupidly it's Hollywood Squares, so the point is to either lie and give a fake answer or give a correct answer and hope that the person who chose you is gonna guess correctly and get their X or O. That's already up on my webcast. There's a couple other there's a couple other Dragon Con things coming out, but other than that, it's just my House of the Dragon thing every week, which I mean, I'll be honest, there's dick jokes, because we're called Hot D Takes. So we rate things on a scale of 1 to 10 Targaryen eyebrows, because sometimes we fill our ratings in when and where we please, just like the Targaryens do with their eyebrows in the show.
That's true.
So yeah, that's my, and then and Ice and Firecon, of course. iceandfirecon.com, our website. You can also find us at Ice and Firecon on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Our Twitter isn't super to be honest, none of our social media is super active right now, because I am in the midst of revamping a whole bunch of stuff. We have changed some leadership things as well. Like brought Nami in pretty recently. Brought another good friend of mine, Becca, in a little bit earlier this year. We have 2 small council roles that we're looking to fill right now. So yeah, we're kind of in the midst of revamp, rehaul, whatever. But social media might not be super active, but it's happening April 27th through the 30th. Next year in at Deer Creek Lodge in Mount Sterling, Ohio. It is not a fancy place. It is a lodge about 45 minutes from the Columbus, Ohio airport. We do not run shuttles or anything like that, but we do offer we have like our Discord and our Facebook group where people will be looking for ride shares and stuff like that. But the rooms are really cheap, and imagine Dragon Con, right? If it was only at, let's say what would you say, Nami? The Hyatt? The Hilton? Oh, the Hyatt.
I'd say the Hyatt, yeah.
Yeah. Like less nice rooms than the Hyatt, but it's not like, loud like the Marriott.
Like a Hyatt with 3 floors.
Okay.
In the middle.
Yeah,
of
the elevators aren't a problem. Yeah, so it's basically like the main building. All things take place in the main building, and then there's some cabins about a 5 to 10 minute walking distance from the main building where there's a lot of late night unofficial parties. So it's very. I mean, when we started this, like I said, it was people that I met at Dragon Con, and we modeled it after Dragon Con, and that we never wanted people to have to drive to a convention center.
Yeah.
Or to be at a hotel where the convention center rooms had to close at a certain time, or you couldn't get a drink at the bar and bring it into the hotel room. Cough, cough, Magfest. So yeah, we modeled it after Dragon Con in that it's very open in all of those respects. So if you're a Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire fan, definitely check us out.
Very nice. Now, of course, right before we got started, because me and Moana was like, we got to ask you about it, because I was very admiring Tara's awesome Stitch statue in the back. And then Tara gave us a little nugget that they got to work during that time of Lilo and Stitch. So give us the tea on that.
Well, so I was just like a frontline cast member, right? So I did the Disney College program in 2001, and I worked at Pirates of the Caribbean at Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World, and then I went back home, and like 2 months later, I was like, nope, want to go back, and they were doing summer programs, but there were some issues with my application and it got in too late. So all they had were food service things. So I ended up working in the kitchen at a restaurant, Pizzafari at Animal Kingdom, which at the time I was mad about it, to be honest, because I was like, I got to work in attractions and now I have to work in a kitchen. But actually working in the kitchen was really great, and I learned a lot of things. Not to downplay like people working in kitchens, it was more just like, I want to go back to Pirates, why can't I go back to Pirates? So I was there that summer when they released Lilo and Stitch, got to see it like in the theater at AMC, in downtown Disney, which is now Disney Springs. Obviously fell in love with the movie, adopted 2 cats about a year later and named them Lilo and Stitch. And I did actually continue going back to Disney and working at the restaurant, mostly doing like prep chef stuff from during college breaks and everything from 2003 to like 2005. And then in 2006, I moved down there and was a restaurant manager for a while. So I was a restaurant manager at Hollywood Studios and like quick service foods. And we had charge of like 13 locations. And yeah, so I haven't worked there since late 2006, but it got to the point where I was like, my sisters are having kids and I'm only, 20, God, how old was I at the time? 23, maybe 24. I think I was 23. Like I want to be with my family on holidays. I want to see my sisters have their babies and, all that. So So I left. I don't regret leaving.
Yes.
But I just happened to be there when Lilo and Stitch came out, and it was such a big thing. And yes, big Stitch fan. As you can see. And to be honest, like, that was a gift from my husband for Christmas last year. This was a gift from a former coworker who I'm still very good friends with. So I do buy myself a lot of Stitch things, but not those two particularly large ones.
Those are awesome.
They are. Because right when you came on, I was like, is that Stitch? Okay, I gotta ask Tara. Once they get their headphones working, I have to ask them about it. But of course, we like to thank both of you for coming on the show live. We will love to have y'all come back. We always welcome anybody, especially if you have any big things coming up, or we'll love to have you come back to talk about that. And we may have to figure out a segment for you, because
I was saying Nami has more things coming up than I do, honestly.
It's like, all right, now we're gonna be like looking at the calendar. Okay, which Thursday of each month do you want your segment? And they'd be like, all right, but like, Nami. You just expect it can go any direction with Talk with Nami. Nami's going to start talking. Y'all interact with her, and then it may start. We may like have the map go like this, and then we come back, or we may just end up, at Pluto. We don't know.
It's
not the loveliness of it.
It's less a train of thought, more like a deranged squirrel of thought.
He's a squirrel. Oh, that's awesome.
So definitely, we, of course, thank everybody. And of course, make sure go to Fire and Ice Con website so you can get your tickets for next April's con, so you can be part of that, be in that energy. And of course, if you haven't gone to Dragon Con, tickets are on sale for 2023 already. It's $110 right now. The price just went up a little bit. But definitely go purchase your tickets before the price goes up again. And definitely, Dragon Con is definitely something you have to experience, and it's a big beast, but it's definitely memorable, because every hotel is very different. That goes on there. Every building is different, and the parade is always memorable, because that thing takes up all downtown Atlanta, and it's a lot.
Yeah, that's why I watch it from my room.
Yeah,
right above.
Yeah,
that's why I tell people, I'm like, if you can get a long distance view, but it is 5 days. Actually, I tell people it's actually 6, because people start the parties and everything on that Wednesday before the con, and then it goes all the way until Monday. The con ends on that Labor Day Monday. So
it's crazy.
Yes. Some people want Dragon Con to be a whole week.
I
don't think that's going to happen.
It already is. Honestly, it really already is.
It's unofficially a week, and like the worst part is that I already don't have the stamina for it. Like, I'm not even 30. Like, everybody in my room was like much older than me, and like I was like in bed just like dying for so much of the con, and they're like, Nami, come party, and I'm like, I went too hard on Wednesday, let this go.
That's it.
Straight up, all the photos of us in our room just like have like a napping Nami in the background. It's honestly hilarious.
That's right. Sleep is good.
Yes, pretty much. Bed goblin.
Sleep is essential.
That's right.
Well, of course, we like to thank, and definitely make sure you follow both Nami and Tara on their social media, but also tune in to their podcast. That way you can hear the same lovely banter we have and information that's going on right now. Get that sass along with the saga put together and have a glorious time in watching it live. The next episode, like Tara said, is on the 3rd, every other Wednesday on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Make sure you tune in for Geeks and Sass, and definitely give a follow, a like, and then on Twitch, if you like to subscribe, and give that support. And also follow us. We are now part of the Agents of Geekdom network. We have partnered up with 6 other podcasts. Each of us have a day of the week that we have our podcast, and you get to watch various content from Chat and Draw, which is with our very favorite Michael Watson. He actually interviews while drawing he's drawing the person that he's interviewing. So he's had various people on there, including our very own Father Yoon from Warrior was also on his show. So definitely follow Agents of Geekdom, and so you can keep up with the Moana Nui podcast, but also all the other shows on the network, so you can get a little bit of a lot of entertainment all week long. Well, we thank you everybody for tuning in. Definitely, like I said, like and follow. Tune in for us next week. That we will have more content from Dragon Con, along with that you can definitely tune in for and watch. And hopefully we can definitely have Tara and Nami come back for some more stuff to talk about. So thank you, everyone. Have a great evening and have a great weekend also. Bye, everyone.
Bye, ladies. Thank you.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then. When they annexed Hawaii and called it cedar lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves the Republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe Bay. As a part of their ongoing war with Asia, used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if we put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course, versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course, cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe Bay. As a part of their ongoing war with Asia, used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.